Hi, you're watching Reddit Confessions. Buckle up. There's a drawer in our bedroom I was never supposed to open. Not locked, not hidden, just quietly sacred in that invisible way only some things in marriage are. I respected it. For years. Because when someone tells you, please don't go through my things, it's where I keep pieces of myself I'm not ready to share yet. You listen. Or at least I did. Until Tuesday. She was in the shower, humming to some indie song I didn't recognize. Our dog was scratching at the back door. I was looking for scissors. That's all, scissors. And somehow my hand ended up on that drawer handle. It didn't creak when it opened. It didn't resist. It welcomed me almost like it had been waiting. The first thing I saw was a folded napkin from a fancy bar I'd never heard of, with lipstick stains that weren't hers. Then a tiny perfume vial. Then a photo. It was her, sitting on someone's lap, in lingerie I'd never seen, laughing, head back, eyes closed, like she was drunk on him. His hand was on her thigh, her wedding ring still on. I blinked, once, twice, and then something else slid forward. A small envelope, my name on it, inside a list of things she said she'd never say out loud. Things I wish Carlton would do. Things I crave from other men. Things I've already done. I didn't breathe for a full minute. The handwriting was hers. The words weren't. Not the Dana I knew. Not the woman who cried at Pixar movies and double-texted me when I was 5 minutes late. The final item on the list read, I'll stop pretending when I find the courage to leave him first. Only she never did. She kissed me that night like nothing had changed. Asked about my day. Showed me a TikTok. Slipped into bed like her world hadn't already imploded mine. And me? I said nothing. Because when she crossed that final line, I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I just started quietly planning my goodbye. That night I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling while Dana snored softly beside me, completely unaware that her secret drawer had been breached. I kept replaying the photo in my head. The way her body curved into his like she belonged there. The ease in her smile, the kind I hadn't seen in years. And the list. That cursed list. I'll stop pretending when I find the courage to leave him first. But she didn't leave. She stayed. Which made everything worse. It meant I wasn't just second place, I was the safety net. The backup plan. The man who made sure the bills were paid and the lights stayed on while she played house with someone else in her imagination. Or worse, in real life. The next morning, she acted like nothing had changed. She offered me the last banana like it was some sweet marital gesture. She kissed my cheek, and I wanted to scream. I didn't. I just took the banana and nodded. I didn't want confrontation. I wanted clarity. Proof. And I knew just where to look. Dana had recently changed her phone password. She said it was because of a new privacy update at work. School district policy. But her smartwatch, that she wore religiously, that never locked. So when she stepped into the shower again that evening, I grabbed her watch and scrolled. Texts. Dozens of them. From L. That wasn't the same guy from the photo. This one was newer. More recent. The messages were worse than anything I found in the drawer. Last night was everything, he wrote. I can still taste your perfume. My stomach turned. She replied with, you're addictive. I don't know how to stop. There was a picture too. Not of her, but of him. Shirtless. In our guest bathroom. I recognized the towel. It was mine. I sat back on the edge of the bed, the watch still glowing in my hand. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Just hollow. Like someone had scooped out everything inside me and left a shell too tired to even be mad. She came out wrapped in a towel, humming, drying her hair. She kissed me again. This time I flinched. What's wrong? She asked. I shook my head. Just tired. She smiled, turned away and said, don't forget, book club's tonight. Book club. Of course. I nodded. That was the night I decided to follow her. I waited 15 minutes after she left. Just long enough to make sure she wouldn't double back for her forgotten glasses or decide to switch cars. She was always strategic about those little things. If she was going to cheat, she wasn't going to make it obvious. But what she didn't realize is that her quiet husband, the one who alphabetized spice jars and always brought home the right almond milk, had finally stopped playing dumb. I followed at a distance in my old Corolla, headlights off the whole way. She drove her SUV like she had nothing to hide, calm, confident, even played music loud enough that I could hear the thump when we both paused at a red light. She didn't go to any library or community center. No church basement with tea and folding chairs. She turned onto a residential street I'd never been on before, parked beside a blue mailbox, and walked straight into a house like she lived there. No knock, no hesitation. The porch light flicked off behind her, like it was rehearsed. I pulled over 2 houses down and killed the engine. My hands were shaking. I wanted to throw up. I didn't know what I expected. Maybe some confrontation that I could step into. Maybe some mistake. But what I saw next ended any hope of that. A silhouette moved in the window, tall, broad shoulders. Definitely not a woman. He greeted her at the door, pulled her in fast, and kissed her like he was starving. She laughed. Loud. That laugh I used to think was mine. I sat there in the dark, watching her wrap her arms around another man in a house that wasn't ours, on a night that was supposed to be for book club. And the worst part? She looked happy. Effortlessly, blissfully happy. Like she'd shed the weight of me the moment she stepped through that door. I didn't take photos. I didn't bang on the door or scream in the street. I just sat there until the lights dimmed and the silhouettes disappeared. My wife was in another man's arms, in another man's bed, and I realized I wasn't angry. I was done. When she came home later that night, she didn't sneak in or tiptoe like someone carrying a guilty conscience. She waltzed in, humming, holding her heels in one hand and tossing her purse on the counter like she'd just been out grabbing drinks with girlfriends. I was sitting in the dark kitchen, the glow from the stove clock lighting my face just enough. She froze when she saw me, but only for a second. Just long enough for her smile to catch, then reform. "Still up?" she asked, like I was just some roommate who forgot to take his melatonin. I nodded slowly. Yeah, couldn't sleep. She walked closer, the scent hitting me before her voice did. It wasn't her perfume. It wasn't anything I recognized. It was heavier, muskier, definitely masculine. She noticed me sniffing the air. I know she did, because she immediately reached for a jacket to cover up the draft. That's when I realized she didn't feel guilt, just the need to control the narrative. "You okay?" she asked. I looked at her long and hard. Her hair was messier than usual. Her lipstick was gone. There were faint red marks near her collarbone, too low for me to pretend they were accidental. And still I said nothing. "Long night," she continued. "Marcy's new book is complicated." I nodded again. "Yeah? Sounds intense." She smiled with a twitch in her cheek. She was testing how much I knew. I could feel it, like we were dancing around a minefield and she was waiting to see which step would blow everything up. But I wasn't ready to give her that explosion. Not yet. When she went upstairs to shower, I sat there another 15 minutes, then quietly walked up and grabbed the laundry basket. Her blouse from the night was buried beneath the workout leggings she hadn't worn in days. I held it to my face. Again, that scent. Not hers. His. I dropped it like it burned. In our bedroom, she was already under the covers, scrolling her phone like nothing mattered. "Don't forget," she said, not looking up. "We have dinner with my parents this weekend. Try not to bring work stress, okay?" Work stress. That's what she thought I was dealing with. But the truth? I was planning the cleanest exit she'd never see coming. 3 days after that night, I finally did what I swore I wouldn't. I opened her laptop, the same laptop she always guarded like it held nuclear codes. Normally, she took it to work or left it in her car. But that morning she'd rushed out late, muttering about a parent-teacher meeting and accidentally left it charging on the kitchen counter. For a moment, I just stared at it, like touching it would make me the villain in her story. Then I opened it, and everything changed. I guessed the password on the third try. It was Rufus's birthday, our dog. The one she used to call our baby, back when we still shared laughter and inside jokes. She really thought I wouldn't guess it. Or maybe she didn't care anymore. Either way, once I was in, I didn't even have to dig. The betrayal was right there on the surface. There was a folder named Creative Projects. Innocent enough. But inside were dozens of video clips, short ones, grainy, shaky. Not movies. Not work. Her and him. In hotel rooms. On balconies. In a car. Some files were dated months ago. Some as recent as 2 weeks. And I saw it all, her expressions, the way she looked at him, the tone of her voice when she called him baby. She had never called me that. Not once in 11 years. I didn't cry. Not right then. I just stared at the screen, feeling smaller than I ever had in my life. It wasn't just cheating. It wasn't even just lying. It was a parallel life. One where I didn't exist except maybe as a joke, she whispered afterward. In her email drafts, I found something worse. A goodbye letter. Not addressed to me, but to him. She'd written that she was so close to leaving, but she needed a few more weeks to sort things out. She ended it with, "Once it's done, I want to disappear with you." Disappear. She was planning an escape. From me. From everything we built. When she walked in that evening with her usual, "How was your day?" I looked up and smiled. "Uneventful," I said, because the moment she hit save on that email, she crossed the final line. And me? I'd already started walking. There's something surreal about sitting across from a person who doesn't know you've already left them. We had dinner together like we used to. Spaghetti, the one thing I could cook without setting off the smoke alarm. She complimented it, said I added more garlic this time. I smiled, told her I read somewhere that garlic was good for the heart. She laughed. The same laugh I once adored. The same laugh I watched echo across a stranger's living room window just nights ago. I had already packed a small bag. Nothing dramatic. Just the essentials, a few shirts, underwear, documents. I had reserved a small short-term rental on the edge of town under a different name, using my old college ID as a backup. I didn't want to stay with friends. I didn't want anyone asking questions. I didn't want to hear, "Are you sure?" Or maybe it's just a phase. The night I left, I didn't slam doors or break things. That would have given her too much to work with, too much chaos to blame on me. I wanted silence. I wanted her to wake up to absence, not rage. Before I walked out, I slid the envelope under her pillow. It wasn't a confrontation. It wasn't revenge. It was the last truth I owed her. Inside were 3 things. A copy of the email she never sent, a printed still from one of the videos she probably thought I'd never see, and a single line I wrote at the bottom in pen. "You didn't just lose me. You buried me. I just finally realized I could climb out." I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the car outside a 24-hour laundromat, staring at a neon sign buzzing like it was tired too. I checked my phone 5 times. No calls. No messages. And strangely, that hurt more. Not because I expected her to chase me, but because I knew she wouldn't. She was probably still sleeping, dreaming of the life she planned to run to. She never imagined I'd run first. I wasn't faster, just quieter. And now, finally, free. The next morning came like a weight pressing down on my chest. I half expected my phone to explode with calls, to hear screaming voicemails, or see a wall of texts demanding answers. But instead, there was just nothing. Silence. It stretched through the morning like fog on an empty road. I kept refreshing the screen as if that would summon the chaos, the confrontation, the tears. Nothing came. I sipped cheap motel coffee from a styrofoam cup and stared out at a strip mall across the lot, wondering if I had somehow imagined the entire thing. Maybe I'd wake up and find myself still beside her, pretending her late nights were just yoga and wine. But no, I was awake. Very much awake. Around noon, a single message appeared. From her. Just 4 words. "Where are you, Carlton?" No question mark. No panic. Just hollow curiosity. I didn't reply. I stared at the screen until it dimmed, then locked it and tossed it face down on the bed. That was her move. Minimize. Neutralize. Control the tone before it spirals. But this time I wasn't spiraling. She was. That evening, I parked a block away from the house and waited. The porch light was off. Her car was gone. I knew she wasn't home, but I needed to see it. I needed to know what it looked like with me erased from it. The living room curtains were still crooked the way I always hated. The recycling bin overflowed, just like she always left it. Nothing looked different, and that's what hit me. She hadn't fallen apart. She hadn't even paused. Later that night, I checked the location history on the spare family tablet. Something she probably forgot was still linked to her account. Her destination wasn't a bar or hotel. She had gone back to his house. The same porch. The same window. She hadn't chased me. She'd simply replaced me. And that's when it clicked. Not every betrayal ends in fire and fury. Some just end in quiet indifference. And that somehow hurt most of all. It's been 4 months since I left that envelope under her pillow. For months since I watched the woman I once adored dissolve into someone I no longer recognized. I thought the silence would destroy me, but in time it saved me. She never apologized. Not really. A few texts, some vague statements like, "I didn't know you were unhappy," or "You misunderstood everything." But when your wife hides a second life behind book club, there's not much left to misunderstand. I never replied. Not once. And that silence? It became the loudest thing I'd ever said. At first, I couldn't sleep in the new apartment. Everything felt too quiet. No dog paws clicking on the floor. No forced small talk at dinner. Just me, a futon, and 1,000 unanswered questions. But something strange started happening around week 6. I began waking up rested. I started cooking real meals again. I even bought new curtains, something I never cared about before. The kind I liked. I didn't need her approval anymore. That was the quiet victory I didn't see coming. I saw her once, randomly. She was walking out of a cafe, holding a man's hand. Not the same one from the video. Another one. She didn't see me and I didn't flinch. No jealousy. No hate. Just distance. Like watching a character from a book I stopped reading a long time ago. I used to think closure came with confrontation, with a dramatic ending, or some cinematic apology. But mine came on a Tuesday afternoon, sitting on a park bench, sipping burnt coffee from a paper cup, realizing I was finally, truly, at peace. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. When she crossed that final line, I simply walked away. And today, I can finally say, I'm proud of that. Thanks for watching. If you've ever experienced a quiet goodbye that changed everything, or walked away from something painful with your head held high, share it below. What's a historical moment or personal event where silence spoke louder than words? You're watching Reddit Confessions, where the truth always finds a voice.